Good morning, and thank you for joining us for Planning for a Healthy Business. This is the second um, part of a 13 series program on financial information for small businesses. So, this is really to walk you through the process of understanding how your business comes together and how important it is for you to have a really strong understanding of how your money comes in and goes out of your business. How are you getting funds to come in, and how are you spending in a healthy manner? So, welcome. There is a participant manual. When you go into your participant manual, it tells you about the pre and post assessment. And all it is just, what do you know now? And when we finish, what did you learn? So our agenda is really simple. We have a case study looking at Sophia and how Sophia is planning for her business. But I want you to take this as an example of how you're planning for your business. We want to talk about the planning process. Plan is actually a four-letter word that I really encourage people to use. Think through things. Try to come up with the best solutions that you can. It does not mean that you're always right, but it does mean that you're thinking. And being a business owner is a thinking occupation. Describe how you would convert your idea into a resource plan. And one of the ways that I encourage people to do that is either use the business model canvas, which you can also find in our virtual classroom, or use the lean model canvas. What they are about 9 different sections on one page, and they force you to take stuff out of your head and put it down on paper in such a way that it starts to make sense, not only to you, but to people that you may be talking to about your business. We want to talk about the importance of a healthy personal credit score and relationships with lenders. So not just bankers, there are other people out there who lend money also, but we need to be able to speak to them in such a way that they think that it's a good idea to share their money with your idea. Describe how a business plan helps motivate stakeholders to understand and support your business. But not only that, how a business plan becomes your roadmap for success in your business. And explain the benefits of creating a day-to-day action plan for running a small business. If you don't have some ideas in mind, the day can get away from you. And then at the end of the day, you feel frustrated because you feel that you didn't get anything done. So let's kind of look at how we can take those small movements and see how they're moving us forward. Because it's sometimes hard to see how far we've come. We just know that we're kind of in the mix right now, but we need to be able to see what we said we were going to do, see what we actually did, and actually be able to look at the progress that we have made. So this is Sophia, and Sophia has an idea for a business. And so she wants to have a cell phone repair business. But can that be a good idea? Can that really be a success? So that's the basic question she's asking herself. So then in her planning process, she's going to be looking at this and saying, what really makes sense for me to do this? And how can I do this so that I can see myself progressing from a W-2 employee to an employer? As her business grows, her planning approaches will change. We all know that. If you are a parent, I have never been a parent, but I have been a child. And I do know you don't treat your 10-year-old like you treat your 2-year-old. So as the business grows, then the things that we do in the business, even though the principles, the values, and the fundamentals stay the same, the methodology will change. And then as we look at Sophia's planning process, we want to look at how that impacts us in our own business. So for each planning stage, record if you've completed it, if you're working on it, or if you have not yet started. That's what I was talking about when looking at the the small pieces that we do, because it's going to take a lot of small pieces to make a big piece happen. So when we're looking at the small pieces of what we're doing, we want to make sure that we actually have things in place and we can start to see the progress. I was telling a class last week that it's called the power of the check mark. We write down the things that we think that we need to be working on. And the minute that we get one of them completed, we put a check mark beside it. That is such a feeling of completion. It doesn't matter how big that item was or how small that item was. It means it's one thing that's off our list. And so the power of the check mark is something that will help you, especially in those times when you feel like nothing is going right. And you will have those times. And you will have times where you feel like everything is falling into place. So just know that just like in life, stuff happens. What we want to be able to do in the business process is be able to go back, look at how far we've come, and maybe we need to make some adjustments to see what the next movement is. So the four-step process is pretty simple on paper. It may not be so simple in practice. So you want to go to this is I'm an accountant, by the way, or at least the college I graduated from said I am. And one of the things that accountants will do when you're talking to them, and if they can't do this stuff in their heads, they'll grab a napkin and start writing on the napkin, trying to figure out how stuff is coming in, how stuff is going out, and what that implication has on your business. So the back of the napkin thing is kind of the way that you just kind of dump your ideas down and say, let me look at this to see, let me put it down on paper so that it's not just in my head. And then once I can see it on paper, is it making sense? So you want to look at, is this something I actually, now that I wrote it down, is this something I really want to do? And the answer is either yes or no, or I'm not sure. If it is yes, you move to the next step. If it is no, you stop. If it's I'm not sure, it means you need to do more research. So the second step is your research plan. So what do you need to do to turn that into a real go? Okay, so maybe you're creating an opening balance sheet worksheet. Well, you probably look at that and go, I don't even know what that is. So under those circumstances, what is it that you need to do to look at what you have to set up? Because you're going to be asking, unless, let me start again, unless you come to the table with your own money that will cover your business for at least 6 months, you're probably going to be looking at somebody else's money to say, can you help me finance this until it can start taking care of itself and I can get your money back to you? If that is the case, you need to have a clear understanding of the conversation you want to have with the lender. You want to have a conversation that the lender looks at you and says, yes, I would like to share my money with your idea. The third step is looking at a business plan. And all of this is wrapped around money. It's wrapped around money because in order to start and sustain a business, you have to have financial foundation and integrity. You need to know where your money is, what your money is going to do, and you need to know how to use the money most effectively. So I'll go back to what I said earlier was looking at the business model canvas or looking at the lean canvas. And I ask my clients to do that before they even start a business plan. Because I know when I started my business and I was told I need to write a business plan and somebody sold me a book for $10. And at that time, $10 was a lot of money for me. And so I started reading this book and I did not understand a thing it said. So then I found that there was a website where SBA, Small Business Administration, had been so kind to put together all these questions that you need to answer to have a very strong business plan. I didn't know what they were asking. Now, I have a degree in finance, statistics, and accounting. You would think that I'd know this, but I was not taught in school how to run a business. I was taught in school how to be a good employee. And as a good employee, I don't need a business plan. I don't need to know how to run a business. Okay. I just need to know how to do my job. So there's a disconnect there, and maybe some of you are having that same disconnect between what people say businesses are supposed to do and what you understand about business. They're just not connecting. So I do recommend before you even get to an idea of a business plan, you do the business model canvas, and you can find all kinds of examples on YouTube. And if you are comfortable with using AI, you can take the business model canvas and ask AI to give you examples of your industry. If I am going to run a steakhouse, I would put into AI, this is the business model canvas. I would like to see examples of how this would work at a steakhouse that is open for dinner only. And it's not that you take everything that it says, but it starts the juices running in your head to say, oh, I never thought of that. Or yes, this is a good idea. No, I don't think I want to do it that way. And you start to massage it so that it becomes yours. But just by asking the questions, it makes a lot of difference in the clarity of what you have. And now when you talk to a lender, you can speak to the lender with much more clarity about the concept of your business and how you see the business moving. Who are my customers? How do I get my food from my kitchen to their plates? Do I send it out on delivery? Do they come into the location? What kind of people do I need to hire? What kind of resources are out there? Where do I get my food? Where do I get my vegetables, et cetera, et cetera? You know, um, why are people coming to me? Why are they coming to my steakhouse and not going to Outback? What is it that I'm bringing literally to the table that makes my customers want to continue to be my customer? So those are the kinds of things that you want to shake out, because just let's reverse roles and say you're the person who is the lender, and I'm the person who's asking for money. What is it that you want to know about me and about what I'm doing? Because you never met me before. So, what do you want to know about me? What am I doing? About how I think through things? How is there a logic to how you're going to do your business? So, when you're the person who's asking for the money, that's what the lender's looking for. Just as the same as if you were the person had the money and somebody was asking you. And then step four, of course, is that now that I've got some pieces in place, how am I going to manage this thing? And for most people who are starting businesses, they've probably never done that before. For most people who are starting businesses, they've never thought like a business owner. They thought of what a business is, but they haven't thought about how they run it. And that's another piece that you want to think about because that's an important piece. I can have the best steaks in the world, but I don't know how to run my restaurant and who wants to come in. So, healthy business is all about putting all the pieces together that make it work. So what Sophia says, oh, she's going to do this for her cell phone repair company, okay? So she's looking at 2 years. She's looking at a 2-year process. And so she's saying, well, here's my idea. Now that's starting at the very beginning. There's no growth in this business because there is no business yet. And then she's going to look at her resource plan. She's starting to plan what she's going to do, but she's got to look at who's going to be out here helping her. Who are the people that she can count on? Who are her trusted advisors? Who are going to be her vendors? Who are going to be her employees, etc. So all of this she's thinking about. She's still got a job. So she still has to go to work every day because her business is not to the point where it can support her. She's at the point where she must support her business. And then we're going to look at what is the plan that we come up with. We go through that um, business model canvas or the lean canvas. We're going to go through that. And we're going to look at what makes a lender look at us and say yes. So that means that our credit needs to be in good place because as a business owner, we have no business credit. All we have is personal credit. So what is a lender going to be looking at? Well, I'm going to look at how you handle your personal credit. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you have more? Uh, do you owe more people than the lender feels comfortable with? Because you're asking the lender to be one of those people that you now owe money to. Is there enough money out there to pay all of us what you owe us when you owe us? So that whole idea of credit, of debt management is extremely important. And one of the things I want you to think about is managing the money that you already have. How are you doing that? How is that falling into place and making sense? Okay. And then when all of these things are comfortable for Sophia and she feels like she's ready to pull the plug, let the business start and let her job go, then that's when she says, okay, I'm stepping into this role. I put things in place that make me feel comfortable about making this transition because it is a huge transition. And so when we do that, when we do that, and when we make that transition, what we're looking for is our supporters. our trusted advisors, our family and friends who support us to be there to cheer us on. They may not know how to do anything other than cheer us on. That's okay. We need that. We need to be cheered because there are times that we're going to look at this and go, oh my goodness, who talked me into this? Or why did I talk myself into this? But we need to move forward. If you are going into business and the focus is on money, you're going to find that this is a hard, no matter what industry you're in, it's a hard industry because the focus should never be on money alone. Yes, you need the money to run the business, but why are you doing the business? Do you have people in the community who have this as a problem and they want to, and you see a solution? So when Sophia's looking at this, she's writing down some questions. That's what her back of the napkin plan is. She's just kind of dumping stuff out of her head and putting it down on paper about what she thinks may be necessary. And part of what she does is start to research this to find out, is it necessary? If the answer is yes, then the next question is, when is it necessary? So it may be necessary for me to understand payroll taxes, but I don't have any people, I don't have any employees. So that's a necessity that can go down the road a bit because let me concentrate on what I need to do right now to move forward in my business. So I give you, it says who is my competition. So let me give you a quick story. I was working with a client and he was telling me that his son was planning on opening a restaurant. And he says, so all the stuff that I was teaching him, he was going back and telling his son. So he said, I'd like for you to meet my son. I said, fantastic, no problem. So he brings his son in, and his son is, he's written down stuff. He's kind of got a plan in place. He's done some research in the area to find out about how many restaurants are there and what he's going to do. So he was looking at a restaurant that would be open for breakfast and lunch because in that area, even though it was highly residential, they have a lot of light industrial buildings and employees there, and thought that would be nice for, breakfast and lunch because then the employees come in at lunchtime. And he says, and I looked, and there's only a couple of restaurants around. There's a French restaurant that's open for dinner only. And then there's like a more high class kind of um, chain restaurant that's around. And people are always complaining about their prices. Okay. I said, is there any other competition? And he said, no, can't see any. So I said, let's go for a ride. So we get in his car and we go for a ride. We pass three grocery stores. Grocery stores at that time were starting to have little cafe areas in their grocery stores where you could buy ready to eat food and sit at a table and eat it. That's competition. We looked a little bit further. We found a guy who was on the corner selling hot dogs. He had a line of people waiting to get his hot dogs. That's competition. We passed, I think it was either 4 or 5 gas stations. People run into gas stations, sometimes not to get gas, sometimes to get something to eat. That's competition. So when he had looked at competition, he had looked at restaurants only because that's what he decided he wanted to do. But his competition was who's selling food to people and who are the people or who are buying that food. What time of the day are they buying that food? Okay. So when you look at competition, it's not just the ABC store that sells the same thing that I do. It's what's out here in the area. And usually if I'm looking at competition, I'm looking at about a 5 mile radius because people feel comfortable going somewhere within 1 to 5 miles. They really don't like to drive 25 miles to get to your place. You have to be really special for that. So, some questions that you want to ask is what benefits do you want to get from your business? So, not just, yes, I want a salary. I want to be able to pay for myself, okay? But what else do you want? I want satisfaction for what I'm doing in the community. I want to see people smile when they come into my business because they know that this is where they can get help, etc. So you have to figure this out for you. What size business do you want to build to achieve these benefits? So I've been doing this for about 50 years. I've run into a lot of people and I've been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small businesses, eyeball to eyeball. I have had businesses who tell me they want to conquer the world. I have had businesses who tell me they want to conquer the block. Okay. You need to decide, what do you want to conquer? I want to be the best whatever in the city. I want to be the person, I want to be the place in this block that everybody comes to because it's worth it. They get great service, they get great product, whatever it is that I'm offering. Okay. Have I identified a real business opportunity on which I can capitalize? Now, what does that mean? That means, is anybody going to pay for what I do? So many of us, we start our businesses by helping people and not really charging people. There's nothing wrong with helping people and not charging people. We just can't call it a business. What we call that is helping people and not charging people. Okay. So if you want to be in business, you must be making money because money is what allows you to continue offering that product or service. And what assets do you need to purchase or rent or lease? And do you need to hire people? So I have a business recently that is working out of the home and just bought office furniture. That's a huge step because now when that person goes by that room is no longer a bedroom or a den. That room is now an office. That's a visual indication of I am actually going in business and taking this seriously. So these are things that you need to think about, and you will not do this in 10 minutes. This will not take a day. This may take months as you go through, because the more you learn, the more you will modify your plan because you now have additional information that makes sense to you. So Sophia's doing this, okay? And so she's looking at, well, what do I need? So I need space, which means that she's not doing this out of her home. She's getting a brick and mortar location. She needs equipment because she's going to be repairing stuff. So she needs equipment with which to use to repair. Okay. She needs supplies, maybe printer paper, maybe pens, maybe chairs, whatever she needs. Okay. She needs skill development. Cell phones are constantly changing. She needs to be up to date on what is there, as well as understanding older ones, because folks like me keep cell phones for a long time. And if we have a question or if something is not going right in that with that cell phone, we want somebody who understands our old cell phone and can help us through that process. Does she need staff? Oh, yes, she needs somebody to watch her books. Now, she has two choices. She can either learn it herself or she can hire it. But either way, it's got to be done. You cannot ignore it. That's not a third option. You only have two options, learn it or hire it. What about her insurances? What about her taxes? What about her licenses? All those things she has to think about and look at. How is this going to affect how my business runs? Now, remember, this is just business. This has nothing to do with your living expenses. Now, yes, you have a mortgage, but that's it. Your business isn't part of your mortgage. That's your personal stuff. And one of the things that you may have heard this term called commingling. Commingling means when you mix your business finances with your personal finances. Now, the IRS has this kind of strict ruling that says we will slap your hands if you do that because you are using your business money for something that is not making your business progress. So that's a biggie. Always keep them separate. And you want to, when you decide you want to start your business and you get your business license and all of those things in place, you then want to open a business account at the bank so that the money that comes in from the business stays in the business account and the money that is personal stays in the personal account. Okay. So Sophia's come up with her plan. She's kind of got an idea of how much money that she needs, and she's putting some of her own money into the business. That is something that lenders love to see because it says to them that you feel so good about what you're going to do. You feel so focused about something you're going to do that you'll actually put your money into your business. That makes them feel more comfortable about putting their money into your business. So some ideas, and this is something that you want to think about for whatever kind of business you have. Now, as I told you that some school told me I'm an accountant, but I don't actually do people's books. I am a certified trainer and I'm a public speaker. So what I do in my business is way different than what Sophia does in her business. I don't need equipment to repair stuff. I go out and talk to folks. Okay. So, but I have to do the same thing that Sophia is doing. I need to look at who are the stakeholders out there, who are the competitors that are out there, who are other speakers that are out there that are already in the market and people know them. I'm new to the market. Where do I find my speaking engagements? What kind of equipment do I need? Well, I need training materials that I share with people when I do training. I need an office. I need a chair. I need a desk. I need a computer. I need a printer, etc. Okay. Um, is there anything that I can buy in bulk? In my case, the answer is pretty much no. But in Sophia's situation, she may say yes. There are some things that I can buy in bulk. So you need to figure out what those are because inventory is money sitting on a shelf. And our money should never be sitting on a shelf. It should be someplace where it is useful. So we always, if we are buying inventory, we need to understand that inventory coming in and how fast that inventory goes out. We need to look at what is it about having employees? Is that something I can do yet? Is that something that I plan for later on? I need to know about all kinds of taxes. I need to know about federal taxes. I need to know about local taxes, state taxes, county taxes, whatever. I need to know, is there some kind of a restriction that is out there for the kind of business that I do? Is there some kind of regulation that I have to follow that is specific to my industry? What kind of insurance, excuse me, what kind of insurance do I need to have? Okay. So how am I going to let people know I exist? Do I want to have a website? Do I want to use social media? How am I don't have the time to put this stuff on social media. If I do all the stuff I need to do in my business and I'm taking care of social media, I sleep 2 hours a night. So What is it that I need to do? Back to those two options. There is no third option. Okay. If I plan to use social media, I either need to learn how to do it well, or I need to pay someone to do it for me. So all of these things, and it sounds like it's a lot of stuff, but the point of this is planning. Think of the things that may happen, the things you may need, and how are you going to handle that? So the business plan basically tells a story. It tells what my business is. So the business plan is really easy. Now, as a lender, there are two things that I look at right away. I look at the first page, which is the business summary, which is the last thing that we write, by the way, because we can't summarize what we have not already planned. And the second thing I look at are your financials. Now you can't give me financial history because your business doesn't have a history. What you can give me are financial projections. This is how much I have coming into the business. This is my first 3 months using the business and projecting that I'm going to have X amount in revenue coming in and Y amount in costs going out. Then I've got to project that. As a lender, I'm so interested in how you're going to be doing a year from now. So I need to see your projections that cover the whole year, not just a few months. But I need to see how they're going to progress from month to month. Okay? So Sophia comes up with her business plan. So she says that they're working very hard to get her credit score to a place where a lender will actually take the time to listen to her. She's actually met with a banker and getting feedback, and that a lot of that is just understanding how a bank works. When you go in and talk to a banker, that is not the person that makes the decision. That's the person who has to be your champion before the people who make the decision. So that person needs to feel strong and secure in understanding your business, understanding your psyche, your mindset, and be able to go stand before, I call it the committee, and say to them, Sophia is definitely someone that we need to finance because we can see her business growing. In the process, that helps our bank because she's funneling her money through our bank and it's helping our bank grow. She took a class in business plan writing. What a neat idea. Okay. I'm saying to you, before you even go that route, do the business model canvas or the lean canvas just to dump this stuff out of your head. She shared her plans with her family and friends. Now, this is a touchy one because your family and friends love you and they want to see the best for you. They may not see your vision, which is why it is important for you to be clear on what your vision is. You need to be able to talk to people who don't see what you see, and the conversation helps them to see what you see. So all of this is important because we all have family who will say to us at one time or another, why don't you just get a job? And we're not trying to be mean to them, and they're not trying to be mean to us, but it's not where we want to be. So we're looking at, as we talked about before, we have to have money. Either we're bringing the money to the table and we're using our own stuff, or we're going after OPM. And I have to be very careful when I say that OPM and not opium, because we're looking to use someone else's money. Part of this process is learning how to speak the language of the people with whom we're sharing our idea. When we talk to family and friends, we need to be very clear on what our idea is because we want their support. When we talk to bankers, we need to be very clear on what our idea is because we want their money. We don't use the same family language that we use with a banker. Okay. So we have to be very clear on, and that's why the business plan model or the lean canvas is so helpful because it forces us to think through it without pounding us with a lot of stuff. It's all on one page. I know that's really hard to believe, but it is all on one page. So these are the kinds of people that we're talking to. Okay. And as we talk, sometimes what we really need to do is just listen because people will tell us how to do business with them. And our job is to find out if, first of all, is that relevant for us? Secondly, are we comfortable with doing that? There's a thing on here called crowdsourcing. And I actually went to a class where we were taught about crowdsourcing. And after it was over, I felt very uncomfortable doing it. The way you have to set it up and the things that you have to do don't fit very well in my world. So there were people who were excellent at crowdsourcing and were getting monies coming in from people who wanted to support their idea as their business grows. I just felt uncomfortable doing it. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just meant I was uncomfortable. What you have to find out is what works best for you and your business. And if there is something that works well for you and you're uncomfortable at it, do you learn it or do you hire it? Okay. So I will say that a lot because those are the only two things that you have to really think about. Am I going to learn this piece of information, this skill, this knowledge, this event that I have to, am I going to learn this or am I going to hire someone to take care of this for me? I told you I'm a speaker. Am I going to go out and talk to different organizations and say, this is who I am, this is what I do? Here are some people who have heard me before. You can call them and ask them questions. Or am I going to hire someone like a meeting planner to say, here is all my information. These are the things that I've done. And then can you go out and find people who would like to hear me speak on these various topics? So if I ignore it, I'm out of business because ignoring it means I don't have any money coming in. And if I have no money coming in, then I don't have a business. So what does it mean to be strategic? I'll give you a very simple example of strategy that I've used with businesses for years. I am going to Chicago. So my goal is Chicago. That's great, but it doesn't tell me enough. What's my starting point? And how am I going to get from my starting point to Chicago? So I am in Las Vegas. My starting point is Las Vegas. My goal is Chicago. How am I going to get there? Am I driving there? Are we taking a family vacation there? Am I taking the plane there? Am I going on a train? How am I going to get from where I am to where I want to be? That's the strategy. That's the trip that I'm setting up. And my strategy tells me the how of my business. The what is the goal? I have to know the when. When is this going to happen? Is this going to be on over Christmas holidays? Or is this going to be in the summer when the kids are out? Or is this a business trip that I need to take next week? When is important to my strategy. The how is the foundation of my strategy. How am I going to get from Las Vegas to Chicago in the next I have 7 days to figure this out. Get my ticket, get my hotel, get my materials to the place where I'm going to be speaking, et cetera, et cetera. So that strategy that is the engine that moves me from where I am to where I want to be. I hope that makes sense. So Sophia has come up with an action plan. Okay, so she's looking at her goals. She's looking at what she needs to do, which are her tasks. She's looking at her success, what she thinks will make her goals come into being. Okay, she's looking at her time frame and she's looking at the resources that she has. So if I'm taking this trip to Chicago, we know my goal is Chicago. What do I need to do? Well, I got to figure out. Am I going to take a plane? I'm going to take a train, et cetera, et cetera. What is my success criteria? That I have my ticket, I have my hotel, everything is booked and ready to go. What's my time frame? Is this something that happens next week? Is this something that happens next month? Am I planning for this 6 months from now? And what are the resources that I have to have? I have to pay for the hotel, or is the company paying for the hotel? Things I need to know. I need to pay for my ticket to get there, or is the company paying for that ticket? How do I get food? Is the company paying for my food, or am I paying for my food, etc.? So things that we in everyday life we take for granted, when we're talking about a business, we need to actually dissect them and make them understandable to us first before it can be understandable to someone else, because we're the ones explaining it. If it doesn't make sense to us, it's very difficult for it to make sense to someone else if we can't explain it to ourselves. So you've heard of this before. You've heard of SMART goals. SMART goals need to be specific. So you need to say exactly what it is you're looking for. I said my goal is Chicago. Well, my goal is really to speak at a convention that is happening in Chicago. That's specific. Okay. It needs to be measurable. How do I know that I can make this goal happen? Okay, how do I know that this can be completed? Well, I've got my reservations, I've got my tickets, I've got my confirmation, I've got my agreement from the convention that I'll be speaking. So all of those things mean that yes, we're on that same track. Is it attainable? Resources needed to complete the goal are within your reach. Yes. I'm going to go by plane. I am not driving and I'm not taking a train. It will take too long. So I need to get there, do the speech, and get back. That's my mindset, which says, what do I need to do to make that happen? I need to get a ticket that gets me there in time. I need to have a return ticket that gets me out after it's completed so I can get back to the place where I began. Is it relevant? Is the goal applicable to your business? Yes. I am a professional speaker. I am speaking at a convention that is very relevant. That is definitely the thing that I want to do. And is it time-based? Yes. The convention will be from this day to that day. I will be speaking on this day at this time. So it's very specific for what I'm doing. When you're looking at your business, you need to think in terms of SMART goals, because if you say something vaguely, it's not a goal. It's not a goal until you've actually put some structure to it. And SMART is a great way to do the structures for your goals. So Sophia says, after she's gone through all of this stuff and she's looked at everything, she says, you know what? I got this. I got this. And why do I have it? I have it because it's something I want to do. It's something that as I'm looking at the planning process, I can see myself doing this step by step by step by step. I want to make this a success. So my mindset is in the right place. And I'm looking at what it takes to be successful. So all of that, I said, okay, I've looked at this. This makes perfect sense to me. It may not make sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to me because it's my business. And therefore, yes, I'm saying yes. So let's look at why you plan and what happens when you don't. So why you plan is to know where you are and to know the process you're taking to get to where you want to get to. That whole thing on SMART goals is a good example. Another reason to plan is because you're not fumbling around in the water. Somebody threw you in the water, you don't know how to swim, and you're fumbling around trying to figure it out. Nope, you actually you planned, you took swimming lessons, you know how to swim. You get in the water, you know exactly what to do, and you know how to move. You ask great questions. Ask as many questions as you need to. Don't let someone tell you that the question that you're asking is stupid. Well, I asked you because I wanted an intelligent answer. Now, you may not get an intelligent answer, but that's what you want. I had a class once and the class said something. They said a word and I didn't understand the word. And I asked what the word meant. And someone in the class said, everybody knows what that means. And I said, oh, that's the difference. I'm Brenda. I'm not everybody. So what does the word mean? And so when she explained the word, I said, oh, well, you know what? When I was going through that in my stage of life, when that was happening, it did not have a name. It was just something that happened. So I did not know that it had a name now, and I didn't know what that name meant. Never belittle someone for asking questions. My uncle was a judge, and I tell people I do not speak legal, and it was not hereditary. Judges have a tendency to ask you questions they already know the answers to. I have a tendency to ask you questions that I want the answers to. So I don't let anybody stop me from asking questions. You may not be the person to ask, but it doesn't mean that I'm not still going to ask that question. Always be curious, always be asking, always be moving forward. The more information that you have, and information is data put in context. So the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. Become a researcher in your own business. Become the person who wants to learn as much about running your business successfully as you can. Sometimes you do that through trusted advisors, and sometimes you do that through reading. Sometimes you do that through asking questions, but be the person who wants to be the best at your business. You don't have to take over the world. You may just take over the block, but make that block yours. Make these customers who come in feel that they want to come back. So what happens if you don't plan? You flounder, you flip around, you're thrown in the water and you just kind of, oh dear God, I hope I don't drown. Because you haven't taken the time to look at what's out there and what possibilities that you have. What you don't want to do is start out in a sprint and get tired and stop. A business is a marathon. It is a long road. It is a consistent road, and you have to pace yourself. So we talk a lot. This is about finances, and we talk a lot about money because none of this can happen if we don't have the money foundation to back it up. It's extremely important that we understand that. And that's why I say we want to spend time learning how to manage what we already have so that as money comes in, we are better at managing that. If we can't manage what we already have and money starts to come in, and we've seen this over and over and over again. And I'll just use celebrities as an example where people have gotten big money and they don't know what to do with it. They do stupid stuff with it because nobody's playing. I was listening to, and I don't even remember who the actor is, and and they were talking about he's got Oscar buzz and he's gotten um, awards for stuff that he's doing, and he's 54 years old. And the reporter said, "This is an interesting time in your life to be discovered." He said, "I'm happy I'm being discovered now because if I'd been discovered when I was 20, I wouldn't be here." So that's what we're talking about is as we look at where we're going, how we're going to get there, and let's make sure that we're doing the best that we can. And if you don't think your best is good enough, get a trusted advisor. Get a resource that can help you. In the state of Nevada, that's pretty easy. I said that not with my tongue in cheek. I actually mean that.
I did have one. I'm
Sure.
curious about how you would go about when you're determining whether or not your ideas would be good. How do you go about judging that in like an online arena? It's fairly straightforward when you're brick and mortar in your location. Well, it's more straightforward. Not that it's easy, but I how do you figure that out?
I would say that you have a conversation with a trusted advisor. And I keep using that word. A trusted advisor is someone who has knowledge that you don't have that will help you move forward. So let's say, for instance, you want to sell cosmetics online. I would recommend that you talk to somebody who's already successful at doing that. I would recommend that you look at what cosmetics look like online. What kind of websites do they have? Is it something that's friendly and something that makes you feel like, wow, I would like to buy that, or I like the way this looks, or I like these colors. Okay. So this is part of your research. When you look at this, you say, well, wait a minute now, if I'm going to sell this stuff online, do I need a business license for this? Is there some kind of restriction in the state that says that I can only do X and not X and Y and Z? Is there, do I have to, how do I get my cosmetics from somebody saying yes on my website to them having them in their hands? So these are things that I want to think about, but I also want to be asking questions of people who already do it well, people who didn't do it well, and what did they do so I don't fall into that space. Okay. I've got some resources at the very end that we're going to go through, and I'll show you some things that
Okay.
will help you as you're going through that process.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Oh, you were easy. So what I want you to do is that in your participant manual, there's an evaluation form. I would like for you to fill that out and send it to me. You don't need to fill out any other forms for me in your book. You need to fill them out for you.
Okay.
Okay. So the evaluation form is the only thing that I would like to have because I want to make sure that what I'm sharing with you is what you actually need to hear. So let's talk about some of those trusted resources. The state of Nevada has a division called Business and Industry. Business and industry developed a thing called the roadmap. This is the business roadmap. This is for folks who want to be in business, thinking about being in business, have been in business for a long time, are closing their business. So all facets of business. Now, what this is literally a resource center. And so at the very beginning, I'm just starting out, I don't know what the heck to do. Click on getting help. It tells you places that you can go where people can help you. Okay. Now, the point of this roadmap is to show you how to move through the business cycle wherever you are. And most of the stuff, well, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of the information is at no cost to you. Now, if you want to know about, let's just say you want to know about business licensing, there's a lot of information that tells you about business licensing, but the license itself does cost you. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so as you look through this, where are you in the cycle? I may be in just trying to learn something. So I'm going to look at what training is out there. I may be to the point that I've been in business for a while, but I now need expansion money. So I may be looking at funding. I may be looking at tax things, that things change. Oh gosh, I got to hire somebody. What do I do with that? Then there's resources for hiring. So this is a resource that I use a lot because it is literally places that you go, information that you can get. This is a research map. They call it a road map. I call it a research map. And I'm looking at where am I in the process and who can help me. I don't understand business structure. Somebody tells me I need to be an LLC. I don't know what an LLC is. I don't know why I need to do that. And well, I don't even understand any of that. Then I click on business structure. Okay. So this is a great place for you to go and look. Here at the university, we have a virtual video classroom, and that's what I was talking about. This class that we're doing now will go into that virtual classroom. And so, yes, you can go back and look at it as often as you would like. If there are things that you need to brush up on, you can go do that. And it is at no cost to you. Okay. So this gives you an idea of what the website looks like. And so you can find what classes that we have that are coming up. You can find our virtual classroom. You can find out who we are. Okay. Some of our resource partners. We also have a podcast that we'll talk about a little bit later. And the thing about this is that we want to be a place where you come to get information that helps you move forward. Everything that we do, all the activities that we talk about are to move you one step closer to that goal that you want. By the way, when you reach your goal, don't stop, set another one. Because you should always be moving forward in your business. If you stop, you don't have to move at all, but the people will run over you as they're moving forward. We have a podcast we call the Biz Life Podcast, and it does, its focus is very simple. How do we help and support the small business community? So people who come on are small business owners. They are organizations and resource centers that we have. They are politicians that come on, but it is always how are we helping and supporting the small business community. So the podcast is done in English and in Spanish. Our classes are done in English and in Spanish. Okay. So if you are a business and there's something that we can help you with, we're here to do that. Another trusted advisor is the Nevada Small Business Development Center. Small business development centers are nationwide and in some territories of the United States. Their purpose is very simple. Their purpose is to be that business guide that you may need as you're going through the process. So maybe you're one of those people that, I research, yes, but I read this stuff. I don't know what I just read. It doesn't make any sense to me. Then let's talk to somebody. Okay. So you can go to the website at nevadasbdc.org, click on request advising, and it will take you to this page. You're going to go here to new client sign up if you've never been a client with the Small Business Development Center. If you have been, if you signed up at some time and you just haven't used them, then you want to go to contact us and ask them who is your advisor now. And another place you could go to is SCORE. Now, there's a little bit of difference in the people who advise through SCORE and the people who advise through the Small Business Development Center. SCORE used to be the Senior Corps of Retired Executives. They were looking for people who had retired out of their positions in the business and still had knowledge they wanted to share with others. So when I was starting my business, I went to a SCORE representative, and this SCORE representative was a retired banker from Japan. And so if I'm asking questions about, how do I deal with a bank? What kind of conversation are we going to have? That would be somebody that I'd want to talk to because he is the person who's listening. He is the person who's trying to make those decisions about, yes, I want to join you in your journey to turn your idea into a business. Okay. So these are called mentors, and these mentors kind of hold your hand and walk you through the process. What they do not do, and neither does the Small Business Development Center, they don't do the work for you. They will point you in the direction. They will give you something to do. You need to do that, make an appointment, and go back to that mentor or advisor and have that conversation now to move forward to the next step. So these are the trusted advisors that I talked about. And I said that in Nevada, there's just a plethora of resources. The good thing about that is we have a lot to choose from. The bad thing about that is we have a lot to choose from. So I recommend these to be the starting point. Go here and ask your questions. They know people who know people. Oh, you're going to start a tech repair business. I have someone that I think you should talk to. Oh, you're going to start a steakhouse. I have someone that I think you should talk to. Okay. That's what you're always looking for because everybody you know knows somebody you don't. So you're wanting to build those relationships, make those connections. That's how the business grows. And that's how you grow as a person. So I want to thank you for joining us. And this program is done in conjunction with the Urban Chamber. The Urban Chamber actually, we do live classes, and we encourage people to come to our live classes, and we do them once a year. Maybe we'll do them twice a year. I'm not sure. It just depends on what's going on. But we encourage people to come to the live classes because not only are you getting the information, but the people who teach the classes are in those particular spaces. The person who does taxes is a CPA. The person who talks about insurance has an insurance agency. So we try to bring in people who not only can talk about what the information is that you're getting, but also have some practical experience. I'm doing this series for online because I've been teaching this class for over 15 years. I have been, as I said before, I've been in eyeball to eyeball in spaces with small business owners, hundreds and hundreds of small business owners for the last, oh, you can guess my age now. For the last 50 years, I've been doing this. So I know a lot about this program. I know a lot about how it fits into the landscape of Nevada. And something else that you may want to think about too, as a business owner, is starting to look at some of the chambers of commerce in our state. And I do not recommend to anyone that you go to join a chamber. I recommend that you go to learn about the chamber. And if you find that there is a good connection between what they do and how it can help you, what you do and how you can help them, then join. There are some good chambers out there. There are people who are in a lot of different chambers. There are people who are in one chamber only. I'm in two chambers. I'm in the Women's Chamber and I'm in the Urban Chamber of Commerce. Both of them, I do work to help them and they do work to help me. So they're constantly being that trusted advisor that I talked about, and there's the advice support system. So we have now come to the end of our class. Any last questions or comments?
Nope. Thank you. That's great.